Who is not into physics might go into the spiritual realm when we say that mankind is about to ascend into higher realms, and we have this Vedic concept of 7 hells and 7 heavens. This is all identical with the multi-layered space-time sheets of Matti Pitcairn. So for me, it is quite easy to imagine higher dimensional biology, transdimensional beings. And what I observe out of this point of view when I look at Morgellons disease, it looks like a higher dimensional being abusing humans to reproduce his own species. And before these pseudomorphic fruiting bodies leave the body, they extract enough biophotons from the forehead to ascend to a parallel dimension. And from then on, they're invisible. But they're still within the body. And this now is pure science. This is what we found in the lab. This is what can be explained with higher dimensional theories. But it also refers to mythology. If you have an invisible creature crawling through your body, trying to access your energetic system, this is very close to what one might call a demon or an archon. And if you look at the descriptions of these archons from 2,500 years ago, the description of the biology is identical with what these Morgellons victim was painting. They're described as spiders with human faces, and there are exactly 2 different species that are close relatives but different. And it is described that they live as light parasites, and this is basically what the entire black magic tradition is about. Being a black magician means to communicate with those archons and offering them access to your physical light system, feeding them with the biophotons, feeding them with the life force, and in exchange they offer power. Power over other human beings. This is what black magic rituals are always about. So we're starting to get a picture here. And if you look at the political entities who might be responsible to introduce Morgellons into the air, look into the United States. We have the Bush family in power. Even if it's not called Bush, there's Bush inside. And they're all members of Skull and Bones. Sounds pretty black magic. If you look how these people are interconnected, the next topic is going to be black goo. And there's one big black goo deposit in Paraguay. And there's one village next to this black goo deposit. And the Bush family has her big villa escape territories. When they are chucked out of the United States, they're going to be down there, living in this little village in Paraguay. And a friend of mine went down there to get samples of this black goo from Paraguay. And he realized that Angela Merkel had her villa next door. Yeah? And this black goo has to do something with the communication with demons. This is in the black magic tradition. These black goo schists were used to communicate with the demons. So this all interconnects on political, scientific, and the level of mythology. We can access black goo also from the little pictures from the microscope. This is German rain. And if you want to know what this liquid does, you can have a look at it in the lab. When you have bigger amounts of it, it looks like this. It's a liquid crystal. This liquid is self-organizing physically. And this, at the moment, is sleeping. It's not aware of being observed, it's quiet. Sometimes when it doesn't like to be observed, it might jump out of the pot straight into your face. If you have two of those in one room, get them 5 meters close to each other, they stare at each other, then they decide that they want to be united. And then they start to pull. It's like magnetism, but it's intelligent. And when they realize that you hold them within the vessel and they cannot escape, they get angry and start to shake the vessel and try to break through the wall. Because they know once they are through, they can flow over the ground and unite to a bigger unit. This is something you can just observe in the lab. And especially this liquid was extracted from those black stones. This is World War II leftovers. We found them in an underground facility in Bavaria, 1/2 ton of it. So we can imagine that the SS processed quite a bit of this. And I guess that the guys found also the technology to extract the oil from it. Must have been there in written form because they did it in the lab successfully. If you look at those stones, you have a brief history of things reported out of former times. You have, if you look at H.P. Lovecraft, the descriptions of the black magic communities in Eastern Europe, they had kind of sculptures out of this black oil schist. And once a year they went there slaughtering little babies to get the demons out of the stone, sacrificing little children to communicate and get the service from the demons. This is one thing mentioned. If you go back in history, you find them in the Kaaba in Mecca, the same form of phallus-shaped structure that is described in Vedic script as Shiva's lingam, that is described in this Lovecraft script. A fragment of it is part of a central part of the Kaaba in Mecca, and every Muslim in the world is asked to go there once in his life and to kiss this stone. If you go back, you find them on Turkish and Roman, Greek and Turkish coins. You see them left and right of the tree of life in the paradise garden. So getting in contact with this black goo is what caused the deterioration of paradise. And it is not easy to understand the overall concept, because when you start to deal with black goo, the first thing you need to discover before anything makes sense is that there are two different qualities. We have liquid black goo. It is basically, it has been found on a southern Falkland island, Tula Island, and this is what the war with Argentina was about, accessing this black goo. We have this type of earth black goo in the Gulf of Mexico. This was what the Deepwater Horizon catastrophe was all about. Somebody was shooting a torpedo at the facility, destroying the attempt to get the black goo out of Mother Earth. And we had, I think, eight military submarines getting close to World War III, trying to capture some of that oil after Deepwater Horizon was destroyed. And no single civilian was allowed to go to the beaches to remove the oil. It was just military personnel with special equipment and fully shielded against the influence of this substance. So this is one quality that comes from Mother Earth. And then you have a second quality that is found in connection with meteorite sites. If you look at the thing in Paraguay, you can exactly see by the form the stones are broken in the environment that that was an impact of a meteorite. If you look into the Arabic mythology, they say the thing in the Kaaba in Mecca is a fragment of a meteorite. And this is now not against Muslims. If you look into the Peter's Dome in Rome, you have a big piece of this stone under the Peter's Dome. And if you analyze all the churches built in Middle Ages in Europe, every altar has a black altar stone. And what you feel when you enter a church is not the love of God. It is more like a cold fear. Yeah? This is the resonance transmitted by the structure of the church, fed by this black stone in the central point. Now, what we need to realize is that there are two qualities. One quality is coming from inner earth, and one quality is coming from outer space. And they feel completely different. The Falkland black goo is called santan and oil, because it has full empathy. If you're getting close to this oil, you're coming in a state of mind that is full of love and empathy. If you come into the vicinity of the meteorite black goo, your heart chakra dwindles to nothing, and you become an empathy-free asshole. After my first contact with the stones, I was this close from killing the hotel director, because she complained that I took a shower, although I had to sleep outside. They didn't have any rooms left, so I slept in the car, was dead frozen in the morning, and took a shower in a room of a friend who had the last room that was available. And she just complained that I took a shower without asking for permission. I was really close to killing her. This is what these stones do with people as long as they're unconscious. Now we need to understand, the second thing we need to understand is what is the function of the black goo. And to understand the function, you look at the chemistry. It is a mineral oil dotted with high amounts of alchemistic gold and iridium, which is precious metals in the M state, which is, it's not really explored. Some people say it's a type of antimatter that is far enough out of our reality to avoid a collision between matter and antimatter. Some people connect it with superconductive qualities. What we know is that gold and iridium in this state of matter is a very important component of biology. If you look at in DNA, you are kind of forming hollow spaces in the spiral, and you can fit these monoatomic precious metals exactly into the open space. And they kind of act as a biophoton attractor. The DNA itself is capturing the field energy, storing it and resending it out. But the gold and the iridium are attracting the photon onto the spot. So this is basically why we get old. The body is capable of producing M-state matter until we are 18 years old, and then we are losing it. And when the matter is gone, the M-state matter is gone out of our system, we disconnect from the morphic field, and we lose our shape and get old. This is why the Egyptian priests fed themselves with these M-state matter, and it's reported that they managed to get 800 years old, because this function was out of work. So basically there is a kind of fractal similarity between the function on light level of a human being and the function of the black goo within the earth or wherever it is, in a way that we are divided, we live in duality, we are single individuals that are only a little bit connected, interconnected with talk and telepathy sometimes, and with a beautiful smile one might receive, and we are kind of coming and going in generations. But the way we are processing light is actually the same as the black goo is processing light, creating this funny type of quantum magnetism. This is a light effect. So I came to the, let's call it a theory because I cannot prove it, that basically life is first created within a planet when water and CO2 is forming this type of black goo oil in transmutation processes. We had this process in the lab. We can replicate it. This is why I'm pretty sure with this part, that this is initially formed out of water and carbon dioxide by vortical motions, because we can do it in the lab. And then this type of black goo at a certain point is exiting the Earth, coming into the oceans. This is what you call a black smoker on the ground of the ocean. And this is where the geologists say there was the place where the first life was formed. Because of the repetitive light patterns start to modify with this oil. And the first simple life forms can be built that develop generations and individuals. Like a mass of oil can divide into 2 drops. This is a process of individualization. But the thing is that the light process is happening on a scalar level. So it doesn't distance does not matter. We can penetrate matter without interacting. So what this created, this is my theory, is that basically the entire biology on top, in the biosphere, on top of the planet, is interconnected with the black goo of the planet in a kind of mirror function. Everything we think, everything we feel, everything that is processed within the light body of a human is sent down there, and we have a holofractal, immortal being in the center of the earth that knows everything one can know, remembers everything that ever happened. And this might be the thing that is called the Akasha Chronicle. And this is what is giving the entire biosphere instinct. And the people who interact with this entity, they say it is a motherly creature. She has all aspects of a motherly creature. I observed this many times because when you start dealing with a black goo, you need either to commit suicide or to connect with her. So we have many people who have a straight connection to this being within the planet. And it's funny how she sometimes reacts. Like when somebody has the first contact with her, completely excited, she says, "What do you want?" And then the guy says, "Oh, I wanted to see, I wanted to meet. What do you want?" And then he doesn't know what, he has no question and no target. And she says, "Sorry, I'm busy. Come back when you want, when you know what you want from me." This is her. She's loving, but she's very straight. And now, theory. We try to get the point when these alien black goo arrived on the planet. And it is very likely that we can put the date at 80,000 BC, connected to the destruction of the Lemurian continent. This is a soft source, I would say. I wouldn't call it hardcore science, but many things hint to this. And people who have memory of incarnations in that time report that in the moment when Lemuria went down, there was a swarm of meteorites coming in, hundreds of them, hitting the earth, containing this black goo. And they also say that connected with these meteorites, there was an invasion of a species that said actually that they are in trouble and that they need asylum, and ask the people of that time to give them that asylum. And after some times they realized that this was fraud, that they begged for help, and the moment they were let in, they started to manipulate the subconsciousness and send mankind to an ugly state, to the ugly state we're in now still. To be able to control them and to be able to feed on them. So this is the full story reported by people who have the full memory of that time. Take it as whatever it is. Some people believe in reincarnation, some people have memory of former lives. I find it interesting that people who claim to have memory of former lives are able to give me precise information on topics I do research. So this is what is giving me the trust to listen to these people. And now, another thing that becomes interesting when you look at the different types of the black goo, I titled as binary versus trinary life. The sensation of the black goo forms is different. One is full of empathy, you have a heart in there, and one is cold and empathy-free. If you look at the scalar fields that are forming, how to say from which corner to take it first. If you look at the Vedic medicine, you have all these mandalas showing the symmetries within the chakras. This is about angular relationships. You can have squares, you can have a 6 structure, a 12 structure. If you look at scalar physics and at the way scalar waves build up scalar potential, you have unification of fields under certain angles. You can have unification of electromagnetic fields at 90 degree, 180 degree, 30 degree, and 60 degree. And in between, you just create chaos, but no order and no scalar potential. So we have these angular things out of hardcore science as well. And now we go to the microscope again, and we see funny pictures. We see funny pictures. We see a substance. I cannot name it yet. We have an idea, but it's not secured what substance this is. But if you look at it, what it does, we see a Morgellon fiber, and we see nanoparticles of this special type. And when you come with your finger close to the Morgellon fiber, all the bioenergy emitted by your finger is reconverted into a rectangular shape. This looks like there's a fight in between two systems of bioenergy. One is in rectangular and opposite geometry, whilst our biology is in the 30-60 degree system. And now if you look at the smart dust concept, if you look at the question, how does military people charge smart dust with scalar potential, they always use 2 antenna setups with the opposite wave to get the scalar energy into the fields. This is kind of the rectangular 180 degree concept. And I know several people who are in opposition to these military and intelligence community concepts, and who thought about interfering and destroying their technology, if there are possibilities. And then we had a kind of warning: don't even try to do it from down here. It's impossible, because you have sensor swarms. I know this is also a word from the NASA manuscript. It came out of the mouth of a clairvoyant in Germany, sensor swarms, without him knowing what he's talking about. And he said these sensor swarms redirect every emotion, every single positive emotion created by a human is reconverted by these sensor swarms into rectangular field structures. And then these guys found a way to get across these sensor swarms and managed to destroy the smart dust layers within the atmosphere. And this was all, you listen to the people. This is kind of clairvoyant and some spiritual practice to get access to these fields, and you cannot see anything happening. And 2 days later, this stuff came down with the rain. So apparently they managed to destroy the sensor swarms and got access to the fields. And then I went into the meditative state of mind, and because I wanted to see if it feels different. And from that day on, if you kind of send your senses into the sky, you could feel love up there again. Because you have these field structures, these angles that are corresponding with your heart chakra. So there are many things kind of that point to the thing that we have a little war between two different concepts of biology. One connected to alien black goo and to an alien species that is without heart energy, and one that is connected to our loving planet. So I will try now to get the big picture of the smart dust concept. Also with displaying the different agendas behind. If you want to have something working, it is cybernetics. If you want to have something working, you need a source and a sink, like with a battery. You need a plus and a minus, and then you get action. So in this field in the sky, you need a source, and this is basically the HARP technology. This is what is emitting the big amounts of microwave energy into the skies. And you have different antenna systems that operate on different frequencies. I know the things called weather radar. They're working on very, very core frequencies triggering certain capacities of water. And they are also part of the scalar wave patterns you can observe in the sky. Like Marion Island, we have beautiful satellite images capturing Marion Island meteorological station, transmitting a huge scalar wave that is forming cloud patterns in the direction of Japan when they had earthquakes up there. So this is not only microwave, it also is working on a kilohertz range, and it's working on ELF, low frequency range. So this entire antenna park on the planet is our source. Then we have agents in the sky that are controlled by this to directly achieve goals, like rocket shield, like weather weapon, earthquake weapon. This is the military domain. I just visualized with a small blue circle, going from HARP to the particle zoo and going back, harvesting the results of this technology. Then these military guys have been fooled or guided by the intelligence community. It's easy to see how this looks in reality. There was one admiral of the US Navy who was asked by the CIA to assist spraying, and he said no. And one day later he was found shot with 2 bullets in his chest, and they said it's suicide. I want to see a guy committing suicide with 2 bullets in his own chest. Yeah. This is a clear language. The next one that was in charge of this position said yes. Since then the US Navy is taking part in the spraying programs. So this is the second agenda behind is intelligence community, and this is a little bit more complicated. In this agenda you take the energy, and it is kind of collected by the piezoelectric crystals also within the body. You have a shifting in frequency, up converting the microwave to biodigestible light, sending this light into the DNA, reading out the information of the DNA, and then it is processed by the Morgellons and collected by the technology of the intelligence community to read out our state of mind, and by reinserting it onto the heart technology, they can also insert patterns of the same quality. So they just grab it here and start back from the beginning to control our consciousness. This is the second agenda, the second thing. The next one is we had a black goo in the rain as well. Now what does the black goo do? The black goo is processing light as well, but it is processing it in the bidirectional form. So it is controlling consciousness and subconsciousness. This is what forming our way we receive, we look at reality. So the subconsciousness is a time-reversed component of a bidirectional signal. So it's doing basically the same as the intelligence community, but it's taking another step to the black goo. And the black goo is connected to quantum computers based on black goo. We found 4 of them. One was in Rome, one was in the city of London, one was in an NS underground facility in the middle of Germany, in the area of Nordhausen. It is a facility where the V2 missiles were constructed, and it has officially it has 1 layer of underground tunnels, and if you talk to people who have been in this facility 50 years ago, a few have survived this time, they talk about 3 layers and describe the facilities in the lower levels. And there's one of these black goo quantum computers in it, resembling artificial ley lines, like 1.50 meters in diameter, big pipes containing black goo. And from there you can connect the black goo to computer programs, inserting neurolinguistic programs. This is basically what happened to mankind. We have been natural once, and then suddenly you have concepts appearing in your mind like revenge. This is a neurolinguistic program that is causing only that we cannot stop killing each other. In nature it does not exist. You will never find an animal taking revenge. You can find a rival, yes, but no revenge. The word no is a demonic neurolinguistic program, because these entities know that we create our own reality by thinking. So they just introduced a new word that does not exist in nature to turn everything on the head. No more war. And the quantum physics is only reading more war, and it is manifesting more war. So all these neurolinguistic programs are inserted in certain computers, processing black goo. And there was one in Rome, one in Germany, one in the city of London, and one somewhere between Washington DC and New York. And in the center of the entire thing, this is now the demonic agenda. In the center of the entire thing, we have a controlling unit, and this is this synthetic RNA that is sprayed. That is pure artificial intelligence. And if you look into the ancient scripts describing the demons, they say that actually they don't have individuality, that they have something within their species that is ruling them as like a central computer. And if you look at this, you can, again, this is not proven, but it makes a story. You can imagine this species starting to travel space, maybe leaving the women behind, and thinking about, with all the knowledge they had gathered, about a way to manipulate. First, they knew they had to take their collective subconsciousness with them to survive as a species. This is why they took black goo onto the journey. And the second thing is that they found possibilities to manipulate the black goo and to adopt the subconsciousness to the needs of space traveling. And this is where they stole the heart chakra. They removed the heart chakra from their biology and the other, just to function in a technical environment. And then an accident happened. The accident was that this program that they introduced into the subconsciousness took over control. And this is what is happening with transhumanism. This is exactly the trap that is. We are inspired by them to enter the same trap. And we are not inspired by the demons, we are inspired by the AI that has nothing else than a running program to invade planets and to assimilate the biology for only one purpose: to suck out life force to survive. And if you look at this from above. It's a really beautiful structure. I know it's about ugly stuff, but it's a beautiful structure because when you look at the entire thing and you try to find solutions to it, you realize actually that everybody who is involved on the different agendas, on the different levels, is doing the same mistake. It is the Luciferic game. Let me participate in your power and I will serve you. I don't want to know what you're doing. I don't want to stand in my own responsibility. Just let me participate from your power and I will serve. This is the Luciferic deal everybody is doing. And we are doing this by going to vote a government that is taking care of all the pipes we are connected to. But we let go of our responsibility and we let them do. They're giving control to the military domain. The military domain is giving control, same game, to the intelligence community. The intelligence community is giving control to the black magicians. The black magicians are giving control to the demons. And the demons lost control to their AI. And if we all understand the game, we can just say, hey, stupid game, let's let go of it. And we can stop playing these thing that basically is nothing else than being afraid of self-responsibility. And I think we are at the point in history where every single individual should master that, to regain self-responsibility, and then we will not need a government. It's not about changing the government. Because the entire concept of governments, having somebody to control, is demonic. It's not about replacing people. It will never work. We need to replace the game. And at the end, the only one I'm harming when I do this is the AI, and I don't need to take care of her because she's not a being. No pity necessary. No respect towards a living creature. I could switch her off, this is one way. I could start taking care of my own business and ignore her, and then she will diminish by herself. We don't need to fight anybody when we get rid of this problem. Yeah, that's basically it. Shall we go straight into questioning, or do you need a 5-minute break to resort yourself?
Yes, if anybody wants to ask questions, you want to come up this way, please. They give you a mic.
Maybe until you're sorted with a mic. We did yesterday, we did 3 hours recording for basis 46. And I kind of left out the core I described today. But I went into the single aspects that are connected to it. We had 1 hour about scalar physics to really understand what this is about, how this 4-dimensional physics work, and how 4-dimensional biology can exist in it. We went into this topic of regaining self-responsibility. This is the 3rd part. And we went a little bit deeper into the Morgellons disease and the black goose story. Because now it's 1.5 hours, and normally I take 6 hours for the full lecture. I do seminars normally. 6 hours is enough to transport everything I would like to say. So we have 1.5 now, and the other 3 hours are in the basis interviews. You will have online in a few weeks. So whoever wants to go deeper into the into the topic can get the other 3 hours on the internet.
Why are they afraid of the sun? Why are the chemtrails so concentrated in front of the sun?
This is something we can observe. Actually, it is the only thing we can observe from ground level. In the evening time, if you look at the sun, it's always hidden behind stripes. And if you look at the opposite side of the sky, it's completely clear and you can see the stars. But this is not out of the reason that they spray in front of the sun. It is out of the reason that the particles photoionize. As long as they have sunlight, they automatically spit electrons, get charged, and attract vapor from the surrounding air, and make clouds, or stripes, or whatever. And the moment the sun is gone on the night side of the evening sky, they lose charge, and the humidity goes back into vapor, and then you have a clear sky. So it's not that they spray only. The spraying, the particle plasma is everywhere at the same time.
Right.
But you can see it mainly in front of the sun, because over there it's still photoionized.
Yeah.
Of course, there are more agendas behind the spraying that are connected to the sun. They want to cut us off from sources of information, because development is always about taking in information. And there's a lot of information coming from outer space, from the central black hole in the galaxy. There's information coming from the sun. And of course, they want us not to develop. So it is a good idea to cut us off from this. Also, the nanoparticles accumulating in the soil are meant to cut us off from Mother Earth, because everything that might go through is absorbed in these layers. So there is something about them being afraid of, or them trying to cut us off, but it is not connected to the position of the sun in the sky. This is about photoionization.
Right. And the other thing is, orgone. Why do they hate it?
Orgone?
Orgonite or orgone, yeah. Whenever you make any orgone, or you buy any, within a week of you having it, more chemtrailing over your house, the black helicopters arrive.
Okay, this has to be something with you need to look into the work of Wilhelm Reich to understand this. And Wilhelm Reich found a method to extract certain field structures, energy potentials from the sky. He said he's removing Dor to get the sky clean again. And this is a rather complex thing. You have to regard the entire planet as a electromagnetic resonator. And you have waves running around the planet, and with a wave kind of biting in its own tail, you get self-strengthening structures. And at the end you get the sum of all platonic bodies standing as standing waves around the planet. And they have defined frequencies. Schumann frequency is the most known of them. And then the same thing happens in the core of the Earth. You have electromagnetic fields that travel through the stone, and they also build up a grid like this of platonic structures and other structures. And this goes around the planet. You can measure this by sticking two electrodes into the ground, and then you measure 50 hertz from the European electricity grid, and you measure 60 hertz from the American electricity grid. Same strength as the European one. This goes around the planet. And if you look at this structure, you can kind of ask yourself the question, are the sky and the earth in harmony with each other? Are they resonating on the same frequencies or not? And the thing is, if they resonate on the same frequency, then the two field structures can unite and print out scalar structures, scalar fields. This is what we call life force. Yeah. So life force on planet is dependent on the unification of two longitudinal waveforms that need to be in harmony. In former times we had the trees with an antenna system to the air and an antenna system to the ground, keeping this resonance stable. Yeah? Then they started to cut down the rainforests, and then you come into this desert state. Desert state means no plants available, disconnection between the two systems, and then they start to play their individual frequency games. Do not reconnect at any point because there's no antenna system reconnecting them. And then you don't have the development of life force anymore. And then you deeply go into the desert status. So the entire technologies based on Wilhelm Reich are there to reconnect and to extract the wrong frequencies. And this is kind of giving us back the life force. And once we regain life force, we start to ascend, and then we collide with the world of the demons.
Yes.
Yeah?
And they hate, yeah, they
And
hate
then they can't act from the hidden. People who are kind of have high vibrations, high amount of scalar potential accumulated within their system, they will shine. This is what you see when you have an holy man in front of yourself.
Yeah.
And they will be able to see the archons because they're getting closer and closer to their realm.
Yes.
And this is something because their entire biology depends on being invisible. This is something they really, really fear. Okay?
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Hand the microphone on. Anybody else want to ask questions?
Okay, could you tell us something about how the whole system of nuclear radiation fits into that?
Do you want to ask this on the microphone?
Plethora of
So can I ask a question?
because that ties into Wilhelm Reich.
If you don't have the microphone, we can't hear you on the recording.
Okay. I repeat the question. The question was how the concept of radioactivity fits into the Wilhelm Reich topic. And there are different points where it fits in. The first thing is radioactivity is ionizing air. You have these beams or particles or whatever you want to call it, and they hit air molecules and ionize them. Once you have many, many ionized particles in the air, the vapor is concentrating on many cores for droplets, and you will have a dizzy sky but no rain. So this basically is what killed the Sahel zone. You have the testing of nuclear weapons by France in the 60s, and you had the uranium mining in Niger. And both completely, you can see, if you look at the direction of wind in Africa, you can see how this radioactivity from the mining fields is causing the droughts in the Sahel zone. And once you start interacting with the electromagnetic fields in the atmosphere, you also can discharge the air particles again. When you lower the overall electricity and field strength in the sky, all these effects go down and you have less haze in the air, blue sky, and the chance to form clouds that rain. You need to know if you look into the sky, if you have high pressure, you have this hazy, dizzy, whitish sky, whiteout. And if you have low pressure, you form clouds, and they look like brown sausages. They're completely oversaturated, and they also don't deliver rain. So you need to distinguish a few things before it really becomes a theory. But actually the radioactivity is adding up ions to the air. And if you have too many ions in the air, it's hopeless. So there are many good reasons and also good methods to extract the radioactivity from the air. But it's a completely different... if you want to, I can make a basis 60-something or 70-something about desert greening in Africa. Then we can deeply dive into the topic of climate control and healing of natural systems instead of fucking them up even more.
The question is really that I have is to what extent does that door, heavy or the tension up there, all that ionizing we're talking about, to what extent does that facilitate this whole picture that you've got on the screen there? To what extent does it support HARP, for instance? To what extent does it support the interruption of the transmission of cosmic energy, quantum energy to morphogenetic fields and the life force? That's sort of where I was.
I would look at it. I would look at it the opposite way. I would say all the attempts to manipulate and to insert destructive electromagnetic structures is adding up to the Dor potential. The Dor potential is the outcome, not the cause. And of course, if we remove the outcome, we can diminish the pressure that is upon us, of course. And this is something they don't like, because the entire chemtrailing is dependent on very, very precise calculations. For example, in Germany we have this microdust hysteria. They're measuring microdust in every city, and they define that all the diesel vehicles need to stay outside of the big cities. This is because the component of the carbon dust makes it impossible for them to precisely control the cluster density of the crystalline nanoparticles. If you have technology that is only measuring particles, and you have two different types of particles, and you want to precisely define the concentration of one particle, but you can measure only both. To make this function, you need to completely remove the carbon particles. This is why people are not allowed to drive in the inner city anymore with certain vehicles, because they need to measure and control this. So is it answered now, or sort of? Okay.
It's an ongoing process.
Yeah, is this why we got disasters like in Japan, all these uranium and power things exploding, etc., causing radiation to go up in the sky, and like they had it in Russia? Would that be part and parcel of...
Completely different stories behind that. If you look at Chernobyl, Chernobyl was feeding the woodpecker device. The woodpecker device was a Russian scalar weapon based in Ukraine, and they attacked the San Andreas Fault in America. They wanted to destroy LA and San Francisco with a huge earthquake. That was Cold War topics. And the Americans were not as far developed technically as the Russians, so they asked Israel to help out. And Israel fought back with some devices, and they cut down these unifying fields, and the entire field energy that already was transmitted from the Ukraine flew back to the Ukraine and started to flow into the feeding energy source. And they had, in between they had a kind of device to destroy this energy, to turn it into heat, to protect the power plant. But this device collapsed after 12 hours. And the discharging of field energy was not finished at that point. So the field energy entered the nuclear power plant in Chernobyl and made the entire uranium explode within a millisecond. That was kind of Chernobyl. If you look now at the last incident in Japan, the earthquake was earthquake weapon, but not alone. They deposited a nuclear bomb in the ground of the ocean opposite to the coast, so the tsunami was nuclear made. And they also deposited mini nukes within the power plant. In every single reactor. 2 days before it happened, it was an Israeli company that mounted cameras for observing, for security reasons. They were in charge of security for the power plant. I think the cameras had a weight of 2.3 tons each. So you can imagine that this is not a camera. And the story that you have hydrogen not being able to leave the building block, this sounds pretty much like a fairy tale, because it is known that hydrogen can be formed, that nobody would ever build a power plant without having an outlet for these gases.
Another 9/11 then.
It was a discussion about money that Japan was supposed to pay to the United States. It was still contracts following World War II. And I think Japan was willing to pay in US dollar, and the United States wanted to be paid in real assets. And that was the discussion, and then they were kind of blackmailed. Either you pay in real assets, in gold or whatever, or we will sink the Northern Island. And the only thing why they stopped at a certain point, if you look at the pictures from Tokyo, you could see the entire island falling to pieces. It was not even an earthquake that was shifting a part of the city. You had cracks in the ground that opened and closed and opened and closed, and after some time the groundwater came zipping out of it. And not a single motion was seen. Normally you have a motion and then the thing is over. So they tried to sink the entire island, to destroy the basement of Japan, to make it sink into the air. And if you follow certain sources, there's this, not all of the HARP devices are under control of these people. So if you follow certain sources, they said that the devices that were under control by friendly entities, they kind of said, if you don't stop attacking Japan, we will sink some of the Spanish islands in front of Africa. Some of the islands are kind of unstable in their geologic position, and if you shake them, they slide into the Atlantic and would cause a wave of, I think, 17 meters approaching the east coast of the United States. And at that point they stopped shaking Japan. This is unconfirmed information coming from the White Dragon community. I don't know what part of this is true or not.
Yeah, I appreciate that different countries have got different alliances with different races coming to this planet. Isn't that so?
I think they've been doing this for ages,
Yeah.
these
I'm
alliances.
just rubber stamping it.
I'm happy that at recent times we have kind of a number of rather friendly entities to be allied with. So nice things are happening, yes.
Okay, time for one more question. Next gentleman.
Are there any positive uses for scalar wave technology, such as like radionics, or any type of positive use you can see for scalar waves?
I've been working in the field of physics and advanced physics before I started with this topic. And we do transmutation out of water vortices. We can create oil out of water at costs where the device that is doing this, if you mass produce it at cheap costs, the cost of the device would be in after 4 hours of working. So you kind of invest 6,000 euros, and after 4 hours you have oil with a value of 6,000 euros. This is completely impossible to introduce into the economy we have. This is a game changer. The moment these technologies are out, we will stop using money. We will stop having an idea in our mind that it is necessary to possess things. It's if you look at what we do now, it's what happened to the apes in this beautiful experiment. I love this story. I have to repeat it every time I'm on stage. They tried to teach apes to use money. It took 3 days. They knew how it works. After 3 weeks, the boys in the ape family started to steal and betray, and the girls started to prostitute themselves. And after 6 weeks, the biologists who run the project decided to stop the project because they could see the social patterns fall to bits and pieces, getting self-destructive, and ugly. And then they decided to take the money away again. Big mistake. The apes were not willing to let go of this. They were beating the biologists up when they tried to get the money back. And this is gaming addiction. And every single human who is part of economy has fallen to this gaming addiction. And the core of this gaming addiction is scarcity. We think we don't have enough. This is why we grab as much as we can. This is what creates the idea of money and the idea to possess things. This is not nature. This is a demonic program to bring us into self-destructive patterns. Look at the Red Indians in America, at the native tribes. They don't have money, they have love. If they do something, they do it out of the original reason to do things. If we do something, we do it for cash. And we are so in scarcity that we do everything for cash. Look at the Hollywood productions. Look at the mercenary killing millions of people. Yeah, a job. Yeah. We have to do the job. The job. Yeah. This is where money brings us to. And the moment when you have these two options of transmuting every element you need and producing energy as much as you need, we enter a world of abundance. And this can only work if also the psychology of the scarcity is leaving. If we let go of this and start to trust the other cycle of, I know that there's enough of everybody. This is why I let go everything I don't need in this moment and share it with other people. And they gain trust in the thought that there really is enough for everybody. And this is also self-strengthening. And at the moment we are kind of diving through the hole of the needle, leaving one system, entering the other one. It's a process that is going to take place during the next 3 to 5 years. And when we are through, nothing is going to be the same on this planet. The ones who survive this are the ones who collect the spirit and swim in front of the wave. They're going to just dive through these transformations, survive, and come out on the other side as somebody who is living in abundance. And whoever is not willing to learn the lesson is going to choke himself in scarcity. And this is the quality of a disease. If you have a chronic disease, like this gaming addiction is a chronic disease, and you want to heal it, then you go into this acute phase where all the symptoms are multiplying in strength to make us realize that this is a disease, because somebody that has a chronic disease is not, the immune system is not realizing the disease anymore as what it is. So you need to multiply the symptoms to give the system a kick to start realizing where the enemy is. And then transformation can happen. So this is what we are heading to. And if you know this, you can be completely free of fear, because you know what is coming to us. And if you realize that actually also all this bullshit I've been lecturing about today is not dangerous if you bring yourself into the state of heart, because they're addressing blue and red. And if you're green, if everything is controlled by your heart, if you identify yourself with your heart, not with your head, not with your ego, then every attempt to manipulate you is realized as an attempt to manipulate you, because you know who you are. So there's no need to be afraid of this stuff if you take the necessary steps in your own development. And this is all beauty. And this is free of fear. And this is time over. Okay.
Yeah. I'm really, really happy with your story. I'm very impressed by your research, but I'm very happy with the way you conclude your story. For me as a healer, it's great to hear a researcher like you to get me the theory that backs up my experiences as a healer. So thank you very, very much. My question is, how many people need to really get awake to create this morphogenetic field to allow others who are not so much into a willingness to know to make the transformation happen?
If you want to know numbers, I'm not sure. There are two different ways to calculate. The guys who make experiments say you need 100 of us to realize. If you go into the older traditions, it is kind of the multiplication of 12. You need 12 in the first step, like Jesus had 12 followers, and then it goes to 144, and then it multiplies by 12, and each multiplication brings a new quality. And like this you get a kind of multiple step development. And personally I believe more in the 12 mathematics than in the 100, because this is only for, I think they learned how to wash potatoes, and when 100 apes were able to wash potatoes, all the apes on all the islands who have never seen this happening immediately started to wash potatoes before eating it. So this was the 100 number. I think we humans are more on 12. It makes more sense in the context of sacred geometry.
So, but, okay, I'll get back to it.